Peace and love to all my Facebook friends, family, community partners. About 4 or 5 days ago, I recorded a video that began a conversation surrounding our confusion with the methods in which we use and our further confusion with the objectives of what we are really trying to accomplish in individual groups as oppressed people in America and globally. And so I wanted to piggyback on that conversation that I began 4 or 5 days ago with part two of this discussion. We probably won't do a part three because I don't believe that it's going to be necessary. For those of you who don't know, the conversation began with me viewing Brother Troy Muhammad's radio show on Superstation 910. I was supporting the good brother Vu. And there was another gentleman on there that I'm going to kind of address a couple of things that he said. Nothing major, but just trying to highlight the importance of self-sufficiency and being self-determined. So at any rate, that was part of the conversation that prompted me to do this video. The other part was that this is the decade for, let me make sure I get it straight, for descendants of African people. So the United Nations has declared this decade the decade for people that are descendants of Africans. And they just had their conference this week that just passed in South America. And so someone very, very close to me attended the conference on our family's behalf and reported a plethora of information to me. Some phenomenal things were going on there. Anthony T. Browder was there, the author of Egypt on the Potomac, and he has a boatload of other publications that he has written, in addition to being a facilitator of taking people back to Egypt to investigate the pyramids and such. And so I said that to say this: even at the conference for the decade of people of African descent, there was still confusion surrounding the objectives. And so we're talking about an international conference that was convened on the behalf of people all over the globe representing the African diaspora. So there were people from all over the world. And what I learned, amongst other things, there were some great things that happened at this conference, don't get me wrong. But one of the things that I learned is that there's still some profound confusion around our objectives and our methods. And so I want to talk about some things that are very important. I want to nail down what we should do as individuals and individuals that are a part of groups. First and foremost, I want to talk about revolutionary action. The term revolutionary has a specific definition, but it also has generic definitions that are subsequent to its specific definition. And a lot of people disagree on what a revolutionary is. So what I want to say is that any revolutionary action begins with the individual. A revolutionary starts with him or herself. Before you do anything else, you have your personal affairs in order. You have your personal balance in order, because without that, you won't be much good to any revolutionary cause. So we were talking about methods. We are talking about methods and objectives. Our methods may differ, but our objective has to be the same. The objective for Pan-Africanism is not the same as the objective for Black nationalism. And so I think that it's important to have one objective. And while those objectives may be correct or incorrect on an individual basis, it's important for us to understand that we have to have one objective. I'm not saying that Pan-Africanism should be the objective or the goals of Black nationalism should be the objective. What I'm saying is that Pan-Africanists and Black nationalists need to come together to create one objective. It may not be that objective in which you develop on your own, but we need to develop an objective. My suggestion for an objective is self-determination, self-sufficiency. We need to do things for ourselves. We need to own and build things for ourselves. Aside from leaving America, aside from having land within the American boundaries that is ours, we need to develop and own the things that we are in control of first. So our first objective before we do anything else is to own and control the systems that impact our everyday lives. That does not mean topple a regime or anything like that. What it means is build your own, period. Now, for all of my super revolutionary brothers who wants to go to war with America, that is a war that you will not win right now. It would be disingenuous for you to lead the ones that you love into slaughter against an oppressor that is already prepared 100 years ago for your insurrection. And so the revolution or the revolutionary thoughts or practices need to be centered around building specific things so for your own self-determination. So you don't rely on an oppressive system to give you everything that you need. So you won't compromise what you want to build for yourself or your people. Is everybody following me so far? All right, so now let's dig into these systems. The first system I want to talk about is our food system. We know that the genetically modified organisms are prevalent in Black communities and communities all over the country, actually all over the world now with Monsanto and such. But ultimately, with the foods that we know are not healthy for us, the way that you circumvent that process is to build your own food systems. Now, that sounds like a grandiose idea, or I may have illusions of grandeur. But and like I said, revolutionaries begin with themselves. You start to grow your own food as individuals. Annie'sHeirloom.com. It is an organic seed catalog that will allow you to order your own organic seeds. And a lot of our farmers and a lot of our good brothers and sisters who are doing some urban farming are familiar with these things. So Annie'sHeirloom.com or Google Annie's Heirloom, organic seeds. And there's a lot of information and publications that are being built on how to grow your own food. My family was growing their own food in our backyard. You take your land that you have and you grow your food. And you know, you may not grow all of your food, but you need to start somewhere. You need to understand how to become self-sufficient. You need to teach it to your children. This is a 50-year process. You're not going to see the oppressive systems toppled in 10 years. It's just not going to happen. They work too hard to build them for their benefit. But what you can do is you can insulate and build around your own self-determination and your own understanding of ownership and owning the things that are important to you. So number one, build your own food systems. It is going to be essential to your survival. Grow your own food, cook your own food, prepare your own food. And has a dual relationship with eating outside and getting other people wealthy that don't deserve your dollar because you have to buy food from them. Grow your own food. Start practicing and learning how to do it. Number two, politicians and political systems. The political systems in America serve you no good. With all of the Black politicians that we have, we find ourselves still in the same economic and political situation that we were in for some time. At the end of slavery, we owned 0.5% of all the wealth in America, and right now today we own 0.5% of all the wealth in America. Period. You can do your research, whatever you want to do. The reality is this: in 2009, we had a Black Democratic president. In 2009, we had a Black Democratic mayor. Kenneth Cockrell Jr. and Dave Bing both shared the mayor's seat here in the city of Detroit. We had a white Democratic governor and Jennifer Granholm, and we had an all-Black, if not all-Black city council. And yet, we still don't own anything in the city of Detroit. The reality is this: politics are a good symbolism when we put Black politicians in office, but they have no power to do anything of substance for us as a group of people. They may get legislation passed to get our garbage dumped. They may pass legislation to get more streetlights. Those things are fine. But the reality is that the true systemic change that needs to take place in America for Black people, politicians cannot do that. Period. They cannot do it. They have not done it and they can't do it. They don't have the power to do it. If you want to be a major player in politics in America, you have to build your own politicians. You have to build revolutionary politicians. An example of this, you may not agree with it. You may have take issues with decisions that were made within the family. I don't know. But the example of that is Kwame Kilpatrick. Now, you may say he failed as an individual or as a politician, but I just want you to understand something, a point that I'm trying to convey. His family has been heavily involved in the civic going on in this city and in politics in this city for a very long time. He may not have grew up wanting to be a politician, but he was groomed to be one, and not necessarily saying that his mom and dad said he's going to be a politician. He just received so much information. He digested so much information in that realm that it primed him to be that. And so I'm not saying that you raise your children to be politicians, but you want them to be astute and aware of what's going on politically. So if they move in that direction, you've already given them the character and they already understand what their role and responsibility is as a black man or woman in America. And they take all of those responsibilities into public office where they won't fail their people. Because we vote a lot of black politicians in office and they fail us at every turn. They fail us. They sell out. So you have to raise politicians. You have to build politicians. So everything I'm talking about building it. If you're not building politicians, then there's no guarantee that the politician that you vote into office will do anything for you just because of the color of their skin. And politics is built on an economic base. If you don't have the financial wherewithal to make sure that your politicians do what you need done for your people, then you're just talking, period. And so I said that to say, we want to go after politicians. We expect Dan Gilbert and we expect Mike Duggan to do something for us. They are not obligated to do anything for us. They are obligated to carry out the agendas that were set forth by the groups of people that they serve, period. You don't have to make any disparaging comments about anybody. All you have to do is look at the facts. The reality is that the agenda is set for others. You have to build what you want for yourself. If you don't do that, you have no business begging other people to change their ways and move away from their own agenda that is building wealth for them and their people, and then set that aside for you. You have to do that for yourself. So we can't go asking for $108 million demolition contracts and wanting to fight for those things. Those agendas are set for other people. But what we can do is when we want something demolished or when our business owners want contract things built, we can create policy that we spend our money with our people. And that way we won't have to force politicians to share a crumbs off of the table or a piece of a small slice of the pie that they've already eaten off of with us. And then we force an argument to get these things. And then when we get them, it still does not have a profound impact on alleviating the oppressive natures of this system and ultimately building our own self-determination. Having the businesses is great. Wanting the business is great. But if they're not willing to share the business opportunities, then you go create your own. So we're talking about building our own. I'm fed up with these discussions on trying to force politicians and business owners in the city of Detroit to do anything for us. You have to do it for yourself, period. If that's not what you're talking about, you are on the wrong train of objectives and goals, period. If you are spending time trying to get someone to do something that you can do for yourself, you wasting everybody's time and you wasting your own time. And just you'll see over time. Let another year go by and you're still trying to fight for contracts to make money to feed your family based on somebody making a decision to share with you. You'll be waiting. A couple of people may get contracts to save face, but it's not going to be significant to bring about systemic change in our communities as a whole. And so if you're fighting for 2 or 3 people to get contracts, then take care of your business. But that's where it's going to end. We're not going to see any substantial changes without doing for ourselves, period. The schools. It is imperative that you understand that that the public school systems in America were built off of a Prussian system, King Richard, that promotes, for you, it promotes social compliance. It forces you to sit in rows and listen to an authoritative figure tell you how it is and how it is going to be. I'm going to give you an example. I was sitting in a classroom and a teacher pulled out a document, and the document had a question on it. It said, "Why is money more important than bartering?" Not, "Is money more important than bartering?" Why is money more important than bartering? So they've already come to the conclusion that they are going to convince your children that money is more important than bartering. When you can't barter robbery, if somebody pulled a gun out on you right now and said, "What we're going to do is I'm going to give you these boots, and they got a pistol on you, and you going to rake my leaves," you'll never see that happen, but you will see people get robbed for money. So I'm not necessarily certain that bartering, that money is better than bartering. It could be, but I'm not for certain on that. See, what school does for our children, it teaches them what to think, not how to think. When you pose a question to a child and say, "Why is money more important than bartering?" you essentially are saying that money is more important than bartering, and you figure out why. Not, "Is money more important than bartering?" They are teaching our children what to think. They are not teaching our children how to think. If you think American standardized testing and education that has been created in the inner cities for inner city youth is effective, then you need to look around you and look at the dropout rates, the push out rates, look at the school closing, and look at all of the jobs that don't exist for people with degrees. There are under 300,000 jobs in the city of Detroit for the residents in the city of Detroit. There's over 600,000 people in Detroit. That should tell you what education can do for you. Am I saying drop out of school? No. Am I saying not go to college? No. You need to teach your children how to properly compartmentalize the information that they receive in the public education sector. But we need to be looking to build our own institution. 2% of the teachers in the United States of America are black males. 93% of them are white. And then 90% of those 93% are white females. The cultural divide and the cultural incompetence that comes with sending black boys and girls into classrooms that are ran by white people who have no idea what is going on or taking place in the home of these students is educational suicide, to say the least. Can students flourish and move out of this system and become successful? Of course they can. Of course they can. But ultimately, the system is not designed for that. That is not what this system is designed for. It is designed to do three things: induce social compliance, mean get your children to do what we tell you to do. Go to school, go to college, get a job, work for us, do what we tell you to do, borrow our money and die in debt. That's what it's designed to do, social compliance. The other one is choose tomorrow's leaders. Do you think tomorrow's leaders reside in the inner city schools in America? No, they don't. Look at the leadership that runs America right now. Is it reflective of your community? No, it is not. So when they choose tomorrow's leaders, they won't be your children. Will a few people from our communities become leaders within the American structure? Of course they will, but by and large, they will not have any impact on systemic change. It never is. It's always been that way, and it's never going to change. You have to build your own school system. Well, Emmett, that sounds real difficult. It's not that difficult. You start at the K through third grade level, and you have to be satisfied with 3 or 4 room buildings. You cannot compare what you have to other people. You will end up desperate. You will end up sad, and you will end up with low self-esteem. You have to be satisfied with the buildings that you can own and control for your children. The gold or the wealth of is the knowledge that the individuals we put in front of them possess. That's what we are looking for. We should not care about what the building looks like. We should not care about what we don't have, as long as we have the human capital, the human beings that are capable of educating our children. So we need to learn how to build our own school systems. These school systems will require us to charge a tuition, maybe $400 or $500 a month, because these teachers and experts need to be paid. And so we have to be satisfied with homeschooling and building our own school systems on a co-op level. And you just continue to grow it. All of our ancillary activities or extracurricular activities for our children can be outside of school. All of the football, the basketball, the baseball, those can be at community centers. But you have to learn how to live with what you have. Build your own school system. Here's the reality, though. We have enough wealth in Black America to build some very competitive schools. But the reality is that won't happen. One of my goals over the next 3 to 5 years is to build an African-centered private school. I am going to do it, and I'm going to build a school system based on each school. A brother who is doing it already, his name is Marcus Klein, put his name in on Facebook. I always share his videos. His children are outperforming your kids right now. I guarantee it. I'm watching what his children are doing. I am watching what they regurgitate, what they memorize, and what they read, how they reason. They are outperforming the average public school kid by leaps and bounds. Look him up, Marcus Klein. So I just gave you an example of how to build food systems. I gave you an example of how to build a political system. I gave you an example of how to build a school system. Go look for Marcus Klein and his Nkrumah Institute and what he is doing in Chicago. I'm gonna reach out to that brother when it's time for me to make my transition into this space, and I'm gonna get what we need and partner with this brother so we can build what we need to build all over the country. He needs help and support. That's why I share all of his videos, or as many of them as I can, because you need to see what self-sufficiency looks like in an African-centered school, because nobody believes it's possible. So go see what the brother is doing so you can understand that this can be done. Because a lot of our apprehension comes from low self-esteem and being weak-minded as individuals, not believing what you can do as an individual. So now we move to holistic medicine or medical system. Understand something. The money that we spend in pharmaceutical purchases and all of the pharmacies where we spend this money, but getting these prescriptions, we could be spending that money on the front end with holistic health awareness practitioners. We can prevent disease by eating correctly, growing our own food where we don't even have to walk into an emergency room in America begging for them to shoot us up with dye so they can look in our lungs and look at our kidneys and do things that are not healthy for our bodies. The medical system as it stands as of right now means you no good. When you walk into a emergency room, can you go in and get a cast, get stitches, or maybe have a triple bypass surgery or something like that and get healed? Of course you can. But for the most part, this medical system is not designed to keep you alive. It is designed to keep you relying on it. And as long as we rely on it, we are going to consistently be spending money that we don't have for prescriptions that will continue to keep us sick. Bottom line. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but you need to understand that holistic health is true health. Eating correctly is true health. Your medicine is in your refrigerator, or at least it should be. So you want to connect with holistic health practitioners that will put you on a protocol for health that can screen the body and tell you what is going on inside of your body so you will understand how to prevent and stay away from having to go lay on somebody's surgical table. Holistic health practitioners prevent disease before it happens. That is a solution to this problem. Build holistic health awareness systems. Eat correctly. That is a solution to the problem. That is a revolutionary solution to the problem. Next, I want to talk about entertainment. Entertainment. You must build your own entertainment systems. Build your own theaters. We must build our own entertainment. I'm going to give you an example of what I'm talking about. I play slow pitch softball all over the country. And at one point in time, the majority of the sanctions that govern slow pitch softball were predominantly white sanctions for white players. A group of black people got together and created the BASA, which in turn birthed the BSC. So the BASA was the Black American Softball Association, which in turn has produced other very high-performing sanctions like the BSC, the Black Softball Circuit, and the PSA, which I'm a part of, which is the Premier Softball Association. These are Black-owned businesses in essence that are this is a multi-million-dollar industry that provides entertainment for Black people who play slow pitch softball. It creates economic opportunity for different cities that we travel to when you consider hotel fare, airfare, rental cars, eating, dining, nightlife, all of these things. It is a multi-million-dollar business. Look it up, Black slow pitch softball. This is an example of being self-determined and creating an entertainment system and a sports system that also makes for a good revenue stream that employs Black people. So don't tell me that it can't be done, because there are examples of every system that I'm talking about. It just takes for you to do what you need to do. I need to do what I need to do. We need to support these systems and build more of them. Also, when you talk about professional sports, at some point, if you have professional athletes in your family, you have to start this conversation of getting them to start to build their own arenas and build their own systems of entertainment in their particular sport of choice, and start to sell the tickets for themselves and market their own talents and make all of the money. The only thing that the owners have is ownership. The talent resides within the athletes. The owners don't own anything but the ownership of the talent. And the only reason why that is taking place is because that is how we allow it to take. We allow for it to be that way. The next thing I want to talk about is there's something that I'm working on. This is the area that I'm working in right now, writing a book, and this is the area that is very important to me at this moment, is building wealth for you and your families. All of the things that we talk about, you can't do any of them without money. You can't build food systems. You can't build politicians and put politicians in office. You can't build school systems. You can't pay for holistic health awareness practitioners on the front end. You can't pay for entertainment without money. You have to build wealth for yourself. Stop begging people for jobs. Stop begging people for loans, and build up a surplus of income for yourself. I'm writing a book on it, so you have no excuse to say why you can't do X, Y, and Z. You take the income that you have and the job that you already have, and you parlay that into investment capital, and you build businesses that employ your people and will sustain you. We need to stop running around begging people for jobs, begging people for loans, begging people for car loans, begging people for house loans, begging people for small business loans, when we need to be creating these opportunities for ourselves. Build your own bank. Get your money right. Take care of your business. Put all the vices aside. Stop smoking weed. Stop smoking cigarettes. Stop drinking your money up. Stop blowing money on things that you don't need, and get your grind on for real. And stop playing games with yourself and your family. Period. The revolution is in here. So every time I hear people talking about what other people are not doing, what are you doing for yourself? What business are you taking care of on an everyday basis that puts you in a position to do something for your people? You're not going to unify 45 million Black people. That's never going to happen. But you can unify 50. You be the individual that unifies 50 that's doing it the right way. All it takes is a critical mass. It don't take 45 million people to get this thing right. It takes a group of people who are doing it right every day. Every time you worry about your comrades or your fellow community partners, every time you worry about what they not doing, who they selling out to, you wasting minutes not doing something that you can be doing. So get your mind right and boss up your economic situation, boss up your political situation as an individual, and lead by example. Write books, write publications, speak, physically do it. Go to people and teach them how to purchase property. Do everything that you can do as an individual to exhaustion until you literally are exhausted, where you can't give anymore, and see how that changes the world. The revolution starts in here. The revolution starts with you as an individual. If you're not talking about getting yourself right first, you will be of no use to a revolution. The revolution will only be as valuable as the individual members of the revolution. And the revolution right now is an economic revolution, because you don't own anything. We don't own anything. We have no control over anything. And without the economic revolution, meaning policy, spending with your people, building businesses, buying as much land and as much property as you can, because that's the only thing that circumvents gentrification. What you gonna do? Go to somebody and beg to them and say, please don't buy this building. Don't move me from my house. Please don't do that. They're gonna laugh at you. Their agenda is set. You gotta buy the building and say, I own it. Get off my property, because nothing else matters. You have to own the land. You have to own your property. You have to spend money with your people. And economics is a policy. And you have to follow that policy like a revolutionary. You cannot beg for loans. You cannot allow the same system that oppresses you to charge you 14, 15% interest on something that you could have bought cash and been satisfied with a lesser version of it that does the same job. Period. So all of these things are things we're doing every day. But we talk in this revolutionary talk, but we're feeding the oppressive system every day. Every day you feeding the system, but you are revolutionary. You are revolutionary, but you don't have a dime to your name. Those things don't go together. A revolutionary is getting his affairs and her affairs in order in every aspect of their life. And that goes for me too. The last thing I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to end this video because I'm at 31 minutes, is family. A revolutionary builds a family, period. If you're not building a family, how are you going to unify people? If you can't unify 2 or 3 people, how are you going to unify 50? So all of these revolutionaries out here that's hitting everything that move, sleeping with every female that move, but you call yourself a revolutionary, you're not a revolutionary. You got to be disciplined enough to build a family and fight through it even when your wife pisses you off. Because the greater good is building the family and raising your children and building them and raising them not to be like us. We are not what we want to see in our children. We are not experiencing the self-determination that we want our children to experience. You have to be there every day with them in order to give them what they need. You're not a revolutionary if you have 17 kids spread all over and you're only talking to 6 of them. You're not a revolutionary if you can't settle down and practice self-control and discipline as an individual. You are not a revolutionary if you compromise the movement for instant gratification of self, period. You can talk all that revolutionary talk all you want to, but revolutionaries do it all the way right to the best of their ability. Are we perfect? Of course we're not. Everybody is going to make mistakes, but your goal every day you wake up is to do things the right way and be an example for your people. If you're not talking about that, you're not talking about nothing. Revolutionaries build family. And the most revolutionary thing you can do in a country that seeks to divide you and seeks to displace the black father out of the household is to be a black father, be a black mother to your children, and stay together. That's what revolution does. Because you can't build a good economic base, you can't build a good school system without the feminine energy and the masculine energy of the man and the woman. It's not going to work. You have to be talking about building families, building tribes, and building communities. If you're not talking about building families, building tribes, and building communities, you're not talking about a real revolution. Because all of that picking up rifles and taking up arms and sending your people to slaughter, that's the last thing you need to have on your mind. What you need to have on your mind right now is loving yourself and loving your people so much that you're willing to sacrifice that instant gratification and all of that other nonsense that leads you not to be the individual that you need to be for your people. Everything that I just said, while I got a little bit aggressive at about the 25-minute mark, I say it out of love. I see this every day. We talking about who's not doing what in the community, who don't have boots on the ground, and all of these other things. Well, the reality is this. Everybody is flawed. So everybody got to step their game up. So while we can differ on the methods, we will die if we continue to differ on the objectives. Peace and love.